Sudan has ordered the top United Nations official in the country, Jan Pronk, to leave within 3 days. The move came in response to a critical article published by Mr Pronk about the Darfur crisis on his personal website, which the Sudanese army said amounted to psychological warfare. The UN Secretary-General, Kofi Annan, has asked his special representative to return to New York for talks. Jonah Fisher reports from Khartoum.
It was this article on his own personal website that so upset the Sudanese government. In it, Jan Pronk said the Sudanese army had suffered 2 heavy defeats in Darfur and that morale was now low and generals had been sacked. That was too much for the Sudanese authorities. Mr Pronk was summoned and told that he had 72 hours to leave the country. A short UN statement said the final decision now rested with the Secretary-General in New York. But unless Sudan changes its mind, Kofi Annan would appear to have little choice.
We appreciate the cooperation with the United Nations, and we are willing to further advance this cooperation with another person who might be named by the Secretary General, who is ready to respect the sovereignty and the integrity, the territorial integrity of the Sudan.
Our only aim is to protect the people.
For 2 years, Jan Pronk, a former Dutch minister, has occupied one of the most difficult jobs in international diplomacy, reporting back to the Security Council on the continuing violence and atrocities in Darfur, while at the same time trying to steer Khartoum and rebel leaders towards a lasting peace agreement. On the ground in Darfur, there's been little improvement. 2 million people are still living in squalid camps, and the level of violence is on the rise. A 6-week-old offensive from the Sudanese military has resulted in tens of thousands of people being freshly displaced, with little sign of the rebels being defeated. Security Council resolutions calling for a United Nations peacekeeping force in Darfur have been rejected, and now the UN's top official here has been asked to leave. The confrontation between Sudan and the international community shows little sign of coming to an end. Jonah Fisher, BBC News, Khartoum.
Greg Stanton is president and founder of Genocide Watch, a Washington think tank. He served in the State Department during the Clinton administration, where he helped draft the UN Security Council resolutions that created the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. He says the decision by Jan Pronk to make his thoughts public had surprised many.
Well, having been a diplomat, let me say, you usually wouldn't want to do something like that. But you know, sometimes you're in situations where getting out the truth about a situation is actually something that you have to do. I mean, you have to somehow go past the usual barriers. And I don't know if this was the case with him, but it may well have been.
I suppose it illustrates just how strong the military is still in Sudan, but somewhat self-defeating on Mr Pronk's behalf, because surely he'd be more effective from within the country.
Well, you know, it's hard to know. The Bashir regime is a serial genocidal regime. It's committed genocides again and again and again. It's not the ordinary kind of regime that you can just negotiate with. And so I think it may be that what's needed here is some pretty hardball politics with that regime, something that would really convince them that they have to accept a UN peacekeeping force.
What kind of hardball tactics then? Because the Khartoum government is not known for bowing to international pressure.
Well, actually they are. In the South, they finally did after they realized they had to. I think that, for example, that we should threaten them with a oil embargo, stop the flow of income to that government, embargo Port Khartoum. This would take, of course, a lot of political will by France, Great Britain, the United States, and other countries in the Security Council. We should also tell them that they're no longer allowed to bomb and use helicopter gunships against villages in Darfur, and if they're going to do that, then the Air Force, and France has a lot of airplanes out there in Central African Republic and Chad, those planes will be used to shoot down the Sudanese planes.
But is there the appetite for that kind of talk amongst the Security Council? Because many people would argue they've dragged their heels until now.
Well, you know, It may well be that this very incident is one of the things that's going to provoke the Security Council to finally take action. It's kind of a thumb in the eye of the United Nations to kick out the special envoy. And we'll see what happens in the Security Council, because it's certainly going to require that kind of will. They already have the authorization in Resolution 1706 for a Chapter 7, that is, without the consent of the Sudanese government, peacekeeping force. I now hope that they'll enforce it.